Mr. Bagla, various past chairpersons of CII, senior industry leaders, ladies and gentlemen. This is the time of the year when this annual ritual of leadership change happens in CII. So let me begin by congratulating and complimenting Mr. Goyal and his team for their able stewardship during this very difficult times. They have been of enormous help and support to the government. So my personal thanks to you, Samir ji. And at the same time, I would also like to welcome Mr. Vagish Dikshit and his team and look forward to a very exciting partnership in this coming year. This is also the right time for me to mention a few important priorities of the government in which we require deeper commitment and engagement. Has not been forthcoming in these matters, but I would request for much more strong and deeper engagement. The first thing which comes to my mind is, Honorable Minister keeps talking about it, is our young workforce and the people who are on the verge of joining the workforce. Actually, Minister has given a nice term for them. He calls them think force. And that is something which we feel very positive and optimistic about, because the size of the young population in Telangana, their aspirations are very, very strong. But we all have a collective responsibility in ensuring that they are properly skilled and trained. And for the last few years, for the last 4 or 5 years, we have been working with, let us say, the universities, the State Higher Education Council, CII itself, of introducing a very strong program of India. It is not to say that we have not made any progress at all, but a lot of ground needs to be covered. And since Mr. Dikshit, you are taking over and you have yourself led from the front when it comes to matters of internship, apprenticeships, etc., I would like this culture to be permeated across all members of CII. And during your tenure, I would like CII actually to give some kind of a commitment or take a pledge that every member company will adopt or will accommodate X number of student interns, X number of apprentices from the nearby ITIs, polytechnics, colleges, universities. And today we don't even have to confine ourselves only to the state universities. We have very good private universities also. So even that catchment is available today to the industry to accommodate as interns and apprenticeships. And there are of course existing laws, rules, etc. We have also done, just before COVID, I remember we had prepared a very detailed, elaborate map of the catchments, like which colleges, which institutions can be tagged to which industry. So once you settle down, I would like to revive this idea and work again with you. Another very important priority which Mr. Bagla spoke about, Dr. Krishna also spoke about, is about promoting entrepreneurship. Many of you would know that CII has chosen the headquarters of its National Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation at Hyderabad. It is currently operating from T-Hub, of course, because of the situation over the last 2 years. Its activities have slowed down, but I expect now for the Harvard India conference a few days ago, in which he again highlighted how sustainability is a very important part of our economic development. I mean, as the data has been explained by Mr. Bagla, our growth story is phenomenal, but it is not at the cost of sustainability. Every step that we have taken is underlying sustainability. And this is again a third request to CII. Why it's not to say that you haven't been doing it. In fact, we appreciate the kind of support you have given to Harita Haram, and now you are going to give awards also. But there are various other aspects of sustainability. For example, promoting electric mobility, taking care of water bodies. I see Mr. Rajanna here in the audience. In fact, many NASCOM and ICI
state co-vaccine తీసుకోవచ్చా? I think everybody has gone through that. So you, Suchitra, I'm sure your entire team, Sai and everybody must have been bombarded with calls. But thank you for supporting all of us. Thank you for helping us ride through this pandemic. Deepak ji, thank you for staying on. मुझे लगा कि गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया नॉर्मली बोलता है निकल जाता है, बट आप यहाँ पे हैं. आप तो हमारे दोस्त हो, इसीलिए बहुत सारे अच्छे अच्छे शब्द आपने कहा, बहुत तारीफ आपने की. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, आपका बहुत बहुत आभारी हूँ. और उम्मीद करता हूँ कि आपका चेयरमैन. Ladies and gentlemen, today in fact, as I just mentioned, is the opportune time of the new team of CII in Telangana taking over from the past team. The baton is being passed on to Vagish today. But incidentally also, today marks the second anniversary of the first COVID case in Telangana. Exactly on the 2nd of March in 2020, we had the first case in Telangana. So एकदम सही टाइम चुना आपने, समीर को बाहर भेज के आप नया चार्ज ले रहे हो. जब थोड़ा माहौल बेहतर है, Vagish is a smart man, we all know. He said I speak from the heart, and I'm not going to stick to my written speech, etc. So I'm also inspired. Krishna, I'm taking a leaf out of your book. I'm also going to be talking, possibly without looking at the paper. The theme of today's event is India at 75 and catalyzing change. Will be 75, I think in August this year. 47 is the independence. So हम लोग अभी स्टार्टअप्स के बारे में बहुत सुनते हैं. स्टार्टअप्स के बगैर आजकल तो एक न्यूज़पेपर में एक दिन भी कोई ना कोई आर्टिकल तो छपता ही है हर दिन. Every day there is a news about some startup becoming a unicorn, or decacorn, or whatever other corns there are, sweet corns, I don't know. There's a bunch of things that keep popping up every so often. So about 8 years ago, I think it was. This was at a friend's place. People who were worried, people who were anxious as to what would happen when the bill would get passed. Sarita means Sarita, for those of you who know. She doesn't hesitate to speak her mind. So she asked me point blank onto my face. She said, तुम लोग लड़ तो रहे हो तेलंगाना के लिए. What is it that you guys are trying to accomplish by dividing Telugus? तुम लोग क्या करना क्या चाह रहे हो? This is what she said. So I told her, listen, this is actually for the benefit of the people of both Telugu-speaking states eventually. This would help all of us. This would expedite development. This would bring more prosperity. This would spread, in fact, infrastructure growth in all pockets, as opposed to, 1.5 years. In Telangana, when we started our journey, I'll give you 3 numbers. The first thing is our per capita income. When we started our journey in 2014, in June, 2nd of June 2014, the per capita income of the state of Telangana was 1,24,000 rupees. Today, 7.5 years later, and this is not me, these numbers are not mine. These numbers are of the ministry, is 2,78,000 rupees. A growth of 125% from 1,24,000 rupees. Another number I'll share with you. The GSDP, the size of the GSDP, the gross state domestic product, and today, again, according to Government of India statistics, the current GSDP size of the state of Telangana is 11.54 lakh crores. 130%. State has been able to do exceedingly well in terms of all indicators. The other interesting statistic I would like to put forward, and I have to correct Mr. Bagla here. Mr. Bagla said, Deepak ji, आपने कहा कि हम लोग छठे हैं रैंक में contribution towards Indian economy. So the RBI would like to differ, not me. The Reserve Bank of India has released a report, book of statistics in October 2021, and they have clearly stated that Telangana is the 4th largest contributor to Indian economy. We are 11th largest in terms of geographical size. We are 12th largest in terms of population, but we are the 4th largest in terms of contribution. Ahead of us are 3 very large states: West Bengal, Karnataka, and I think Maharashtra. So I would like to correct you there, sir. And this is not me again, Reserve Bank of India. In fact, just to put things in perspective, our population in India as a state is 2.5%, but our contribution to GDP of India is 5%. So that is literally Telangana punching above its weight, double the size. So that goes to show you why I call Telangana the most successful startup of independent India. Our Honorable Chief Minister, in fact, is a firm believer, Shri KCR Garu is a firm believer in getting the basics right, in getting the fundamentals right. While it's easy to talk about emerging technologies, it's fanciful to talk about all the cool things that are happening all over the world, the hyperloops and other things in the world. It's all nice talk, but I think a country like India, which is still a developing nation, should get its basics. Infrastructure, inclusive growth. That's exactly what we focused on in the last 7.5 years. Now, what do I mean by innovation? Innovation in today's world is often misconstrued as being, disruption in the technology area, startups, etc., etc. But innovation can happen on many, many fronts. I was amused to hear Krishna when he said big companies cannot innovate. I beg to differ, Krishna. In fact, lose your mojo and you are gone in no time. Because if you think about it, 20 years back, Yahoo was a big name. Today not, and I think each of us in this room, or most of us, potential of this is something that is truly amazing for a new state in India. And this growth, the numbers that I just read out, is all despite still some issues to settle. The bifurcation rules are still, in some areas at least, they're still there. This is despite the fact that there was demonetization, which affected all of us, which affected the growth of states, districts, countries, the entire country as such, industries also. This despite the pandemic. 2 years of pandemic and still Telangana, in fact, as was pointed out by Mr. Badla, even if you look at an average, it's more than 13%. And if this same growth trajectory continues, then we would certainly be at that magical $470 billion or $500 billion, I think he was referring to. We'd be there by 2030. Which is a humongous contribution to India's economy, if you ask me. Innovation was not confined to industrial clearances alone. Innovation was also brought in other spheres of life, such as municipal administration. How we give clearances is replicated by municipal department. We ask the municipal department also to study how building permissions are given. So today in Telangana day window, on the 22nd day, without you having to meet any official, it's a deemed approval. In fact, for plots of less than 500 square meters, the approval is instant, it's self-certification. No state in India will tell you this. So this is the sort of innovation Telangana has made. Innovation in Panchayati Raj and rural development. The new act that we brought in for village development is something truly unique. I don't think there is any state in the country which said Panchayati or the municipal body has to be earmarked for greenery. 10% of your budget is green budget. And the new act also espouses or the municipal councillor or the municipal chairperson or the Panchayati secretary can lose their job and will lose their 85% survival of the plants that have been planted in their respective domains. I don't think any government in India has done this. Now that is the innovation I'm talking about. Innovation does not have to confine itself to cool technologies. Innovation is about impacting the society in a positive way. And that's what I'm saying. Governments can innovate, others also can innovate. Innovation, infrastructure is the second item. On the infrastructure front, while Telangana has grown is because we have spent lots of money. We spent extensive money on ramping up our infrastructure. We were a power deficit state when we started our journey, 1,000 megawatts. Today our installed capacity of power is more than 16,000 megawatts and more than doubled in the last 7.5 years. We spent lots of money on that. That is why Telangana is able to provide quality power supply to industry, to households, and also to agriculture. We are the only state in the country, in fact, that provides power to small and marginal farmers. Again, you would not hear this from any other state in India. Infrastructure not only in power, drinking water. We are the only state in the country which had completed, a project which had, laying of 140,000 kilometers of pipeline. A project called as Mission Bhagirath, which is aimed at providing a portable drinking water connection to each and every one of the 10 million homes, 1 crore households in Telangana. A unique project where we spent nearly $7 billion has been completed, and today Government of India has drawn inspiration from us and has started what is called as Har Ghar Jal, a new program which they are asking other states also to emulate. Infrastructure is not again only on power and drinking water, but also in irrigation. I don't know how many of you in this room know this. The world's largest lift irrigation project, the world's largest, not India's largest, the world's largest lift irrigation project has been conceptualized and has been completed by the government of Telangana in less than 4 years of time. And we often talk about Chinese execution. We often talk about how things move fast in China. But the new state of Telangana, the youngest state in India, has shown to the rest of the country how well things can happen, things can move, provided the political will and collective efforts of the bureaucracy and engineering department are showcased. You would be surprised, we are lifting water Godavari from about 82 meters above sea level to near Hyderabad through a multi-stage lift irrigation program. And we are engaging some of the biggest pumps in the world, pump sets in the world. 137 megawatts of pumps each. Very, very unique kind of a model that Telangana has been able to champion. For those of you who are wondering, what about the third eye? Innovation is good, infrastructure is fine, what about inclusive growth? Telangana has shown this country that inclusive growth can be showcased. While we focused on industrial growth, we did not lay down our agriculture potential. Today, I'm proud to share with you. Agriculture's contribution to the GSDP back in 2013 was 16%. Today, in 2021, our agriculture contribution to the state's GSDP has increased by 5% to 21%. This is tremendous. 5% increase is not easy. And I can assure you of one thing, Dr. Krishna Ila said, if there is a next pandemic, it is likely to be on the animal side affecting our food security. I can confidently say this. No matter what happens in the rest of India, Telangana will not only be secure with its agriculture produce, we will be able to support other states in the country if that happens. I hope it does not happen, but we will certainly be there to the rescue of the rest of the country as well. The reason why I say this is because our agriculture produce has increased so much that even Food Corporation of India, उन्होंने भी हाथ उठा दिया, बोला कि हम प्रोक्योर नहीं कर सकते आपके साथ, इतना ज़्यादा पैडी आ रहा है प्रोड्यूस आपसे, तो हम नहीं खरीद सकते हैं आपसे. That is the level of increase in agriculture produce that Telangana has been able to showcase. You know, at one point of time, Punjab was called the granary of India. But today, proud to share with you, Telangana is that granary. We've replaced Punjab and we are the granary. The point I'm trying to make, gentlemen and ladies, is that while Telangana continued to grow industrially at 13% or more, our agriculture produce also, because we focused on agri, but we did not let down our farmers. We came out with innovative schemes. I talked about innovation. Our Honorable Chief Minister came out with a program, Farm Input Subsidy, called as Raitu Bandhu. 75 years of Indian independence, no other leader, no Chief Minister, no Prime Minister thought about it, of doing a direct benefit transfer to our farmers. We are the first state in India, an independent India, to have come out with a policy where the farmers have been given 5,000 rupees per acre every year. And the kind of money that is being spent is about 15,000 crores per annum to about going to about 62 lakh farmers in the state of Telangana. This has again inspired the government of India to launch what is called as PM Kisan. So we also ensured that environment was not affected. Proud to share with you, just a couple of days ago, the entire country's Indian Forest Service officers were in this very room. I was here talking to them. The entire country's principal chief conservators of every state was here. In terms of increasing the green cover, our green cover increased from 24% to 31.7% in the last 7.5 years. Our industry continued to grow, but our green quotient also continued to grow. So that goes to show you, inclusive growth can happen. Industry and greening can go together. Industry and environment can prosper together. Agriculture and IT can prosper together. Aerospace and also other sectors, social welfare, can also travel together. And we can continue to do a fine balancing act. And that is where Telangana sets a benchmark and sets an example. I can go on about Telangana, it's my fiduciary responsibility. I do believe that the country has to do well. We also have to look at what else needs to be done in the rest of the country. One of the things, please don't think I'm being critical, Mr. Bagla, but I would like to point out certain things because प्रधानमंत्री जी ने बुलाया था एक मीटिंग 2019 में जून में और उन्होंने बहुत सारे not be thinking still as a developing country. The one point I'd like to make on this. For those of you who know, you would appreciate it. For those of you who do not, I would request you to think about it. In 1987, India and China, the country who we love talking about, our GDPs were similar in 1987. This is not so long ago, only 35 years ago. But today, 35 years later, our GDP is 2.4 trillion. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Bala, but I think it's at about 2.4, 2.5 trillion. And China is $16 trillion. They're more than 5 times bigger, 5.78 I think it is. What happened? How did they surge ahead? Why are we left behind? Similar countries, similar size, geographically, population-wise, but we're almost there. How come they are at 16 trillion? We are at 2.4, 2.5 trillion. What happened? I think we need to ask ourselves a few questions. We keep reading news and I'm thrilled. Mr. Bagla said, we've been able to attract investments, a lot of FDI into the country, 30 states and union territories, diversified, have received investments, have received FDI. Yes, we are growing, without a question. We are looking good, but are we doing enough to compete with a country like China? I don't think so. And the reason why I say this is, when the pandemic hit, captains, you can ask the vaccine makers, you can ask the pharmaceutical companies, who were we dependent on for 85 years? While a small country like Taiwan is able to create multiple fabs, while a small country like Singapore is able to create multiple fabs, a large country like India, one of the largest economies in the world, how come we were not able to create a fab of our own? How come we are dependent on Taiwan and Singapore and others for chips 75 years after? How come we couldn't actually do much on that account in spite of several attempts that have been made? And now I know there is an attempt being made even now as we speak. Some PLI scheme, $10 billion. I'm just trying to point out two statistics. One of the largest employers of this country, especially for blue collar workers, is textile industry. Today, 4% chance. We only account to 4% of textile and apparel production of the world. With such a large think force, such a large workforce, and a sector that has the potential to employ millions of people, why are we lagging behind Bangladesh and Sri Lanka? Question that we need to ask ourselves. Can we not have these centers through a textile policy, apparel policy? Have centers running in the tier 2, tier 3? Can we not have them in Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, and all these states that continue to hold us back in terms of our growth? Today I proudly say my state is doing well, but I also feel as an Indian, I feel sad when I look at Uttar Pradesh. They are lagging behind. There are 22 crore people in Uttar Pradesh. What is their contribution to GDP? 15%. We have 4 crore, we contribute 5%. Uttar Pradesh is 22 crore, they contribute 15%. Why? The ability to come out with innovations, our strategic ability to actually rethink our own selves. When the pandemic hit us back in 2020 April, we had a question. I request CII, you're a neutral platform. See, if I say this, Government of India will think since I'm politically not aligned with them, I criticize them. You're an industry body. What stops you from asking Government of India this fundamental question? कि ऐसा क्यों है कि हम कोई यहाँ पे मैन्युफैक्चर करते हैं वो ज़्यादा कॉस्टली हो जाता है, जबकि हम लोग अगर इंपोर्ट करते हैं तो चीप बनता है? ये क्या लॉजिक है? एक तरफ बात करते हैं सेल्फ रिलायंट इंडिया की, आत्मनिर्भर भारत की, और दूसरी तरफ हमारे पॉलिसीज इतने फ्लॉड है कि यहाँ बनाना चाहते भी हैं तो बहुत ज़्यादा एक्सपेंसिव है, इट मेक्स यू uncompetitive cost-wise. So how will you survive in this environment? Any hospital will not procure from you. Simple, because you're, economy-wise, in terms of cost competitiveness, you're just not there. These are the questions, these are the fundamental changes we need to be making in our country. We have a huge coastline of more than 8,000 kilometers. How is it that our sea trade, our maritime trade, is less than that of Singapore, a small island nation? The number of containers that are handled by Singapore port are much higher than all the container load that is handled by all of our ports put together. Is it not a matter of shame? The number of seaports, is it not a matter of shame that we can't even make our ports transshipment hubs in spite of being such a large country? I don't even want to talk about our highways and highway speeds and truck movements and truck speeds, etc., etc. The point I'm trying to make is, it's good to. China has these large industrial parks. 70,000 acres, 50,000 acres. There's a place called Shishou. There's an industrial park in 70.
మన రాష్ట్ర మృగం కృష్ణ జింకను మన రాష్ట్ర మృగం కృష్ణ జింకను మన రాష్ట్ర మృగం కృష్ణ జింకను మన రాష్ట్ర మృగం కృష్ణ జింకను
City which is in about 14,000 acres. Even for that to happen, it's a huge, humongous task. उनको जैसा दीपक जी ने कहा, ग्रोथ आ रहा है. मैं ये नहीं कहता कि ग्रोथ नहीं आ रहा है, but that is happening by default. I'm sorry. हम लोग कोशिश कर रहे हैं, सब लोग कोशिश कर रहे हैं, हर राज्य कोशिश कर रहा है, इन्वेस्ट इंडिया कोशिश कर रहा है, इन्वेस्टमेंट आ रहा है, ऐसा नहीं कि नहीं आ रहा, बट जितना आना चाहिए, जितना होना चाहिए, उतना नहीं हो रहा है, जितना तेजी से पॉलिसी बनना चाहिए, वो नहीं हो रहा है. And I'm sorry to say this, but it is a fact. We talk about so many other things, self-reliance, self-reliant India. Good, but what is stopping us? See, today we're in the middle of a war, we're witnessing a war, Russia and Ukraine. And I'm sure many Indians have also thought of this, and so have I. What happens if something very similar happens to India? Are we ready? Defense-wise. What is called as a defense industry and production corridor? Commerce and defense, both. Requested them, I said, ma'am, this was Nirmala ji then. I went to her and I said, ma'am, the most logical destination for this to be in India, because of the existing ecosystem, nothing else, nothing more, is between Hyderabad and Bangalore, because Hyderabad has large number of defense PSUs, and so does Bangalore. So it would make a great deal of sense to have this defense. But Uttar Pradesh or Bundelkhand, will it be able to attract Lockheed Martin? Will it be able to invite, a Sikorsky? Or will it be able to actually hit the ground running? She said no, the decision is made. The point I'm trying to make is, if you really want India to prosper, India to grow, support the current ecosystem, support the growing ecosystem, support the states which are doing well. I am all for supporting UP, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, भारत में बहुत कॉन्फिडेंटली कह सकता हूँ मिस्टर बागला कि 20 लाख करोड़ की जो इकोनॉमिक स्टिमुलस की बात की गई, it has been a huge disappointment. I'm sorry to say this, but it has not worked. It has not helped our MSMEs. Lakhs of MSMEs have shut shop in the last couple of years. I think now is the time to introspect, to think forward, to think ahead, come up with a very realistic strategy, and not just numbers and figures which just look good on the paper. My humble submission to the CII is, if I speak and if I make a point, it will be misconstrued and it will be reported as political criticism. It will be looked at as criticism from the opposition benches. But a neutral body, a body which has, I'm sure, members of all hues and shades of all political affiliations in its organization, such as the Confederation of Indian Industry, if you espouse the cause of India, if you espouse the cause of how India needs to grow, India, does not have the luxury of leapfrogging. India needs to pole vault. India does not have the luxury at 75 of abhi bhi leapfrog karenge nahi. You need to lead really pole vault. You need to. He's talking about China plus one or complete exit of China strategy. I will not name names, Mr. Bagla, but I'll tell you one thing. There was a large aerospace and defense company that came east. Be bold, reach out to the powers to be in Delhi. आप उनसे झगड़ा करो, लड़ो और पूछो उनसे, डिमांड करो, क्योंकि इलेक्शन भी ज्यादा दूर नहीं है, शायद सुनेंगे थोड़ा, तो आगे जाके बात करना पड़ेगा. एक आदमी ऐसे थे जो आपके सीआईए में थे, थोड़े दमदार थे, बोलते थे, राहुल बजाज. बदनसीबी है तो गुजर गए, अभी वो नहीं रहे हमारे बीच. He was the man who used to speak his mind. I remember meeting him several times in Davos. He was not afraid of speaking his mind. बहुत लोग डरते हैं आप में से लोग. मुझे याद है एक इंस्टेंस, हमारे यहाँ पे ग्लोबल एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप समिट हो रहा था. खड़ा हुआ था शमशाबाद में, फलकनुमा में डिनर करके उनको जाके अपना फ्लाइट में जाना था. तो वो कह रहे थे कि भाई मैंने तो सोचा कि 9:30-10 बजे तक हो जाएगा डिनर, तो मैं वापस जाऊंगा 11 बजे तक. आई हैव इनवाइटेड सम गेस्ट्स एट होम. मैंने कहा ठीक है निकल जाओ, बहुत सारे लोग हैं यहाँ पे, मैं बोलूंगा उनको कि आपको जाना था, जल्दी था, वो लोग लेट हो रहे हैं तो आप चले जाओ. कि गेम में प्रेम के साथ काम करो, मोहब्बत के साथ काम करो, इंडस्ट्री के साथ. आई थिंक मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट थिंग, I was feeling a bit sheepish also when Dr. Krishnayala kept saying, the government here does not interfere. Apparently that has become a compliment also. We are supposed to be enablers, Krishna. If anything, apparently it has become a compliment. Being unobtrusive also has become a compliment. It's a matter of collective shame. If governments today are being complimented for being unobtrusive and not harassing you, it's a matter of shame. If anything, we should be complimented for doing more, for being enablers, for creating infra, for making conducive policies, Hey, all of which I have done, huh? We have done. So please also compliment us for that. And more importantly, for being unobtrusive and not being in your hair and poking our nose where it does not belong. So I request the new incoming team of Vagish Dikshit from CII Telangana. You will please lead your southern chapter, the rest of the country. Please go meet Mr. Bagla on the practicality of my suggestions, or if it comes from CII. So good luck to the entire Confederation of Indian Industry, particularly to the chapter of Telangana. Thanks.
Sir, it's always a pleasure to listen to your address. The leadership that Telangana really transformed over the last 8 years is testimony to. Please, over to you, Vagesh. Thank you.
And our beloved Minister Shri K.T. Ramarao Garu, dear Shri Jayesh Ranjan, Principal Secretary, Industries and Commerce, Shri Deepak Bagla, India, Shri C.K. Ranganathan ji, Chairman, CII Southern Region, from the CII Telangana platform, addressing.
But very fruitful discussions were there and a lot of good speeches were there. A lot of insight has been given by the speakers to have this program here. Really, I am privileged to attend this program CII first time, and I am sure under the leadership of Mr. Vagesh, the CII will do a wonderful job for entire Telangana as well as for our country.
Vagesh Dikshit taking over this baton of CII of Telangana is going to be a big achievement, big boon for Telangana because he is young, dynamic and very aggressive, progressive business leader, and I am confident he will do a wonderful job for CII and Telangana.